Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 Preakness Rant. Today, joining me again are Bob Harris and Sam Meola. Hello, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Hey Craig, what's going on?
Hey,
Not
Craig,
Hi
much.
Sammy.
Bob, pleasure.
So it's Preakness week, and you know what that means? It means that we have our Kentucky Derby winner is going to be making an attempt to win the Preakness this week, Mystic Dan. And joining him this week will be a couple of others from the Derby, but also a few outsiders, as is traditional. And I've also done a quick check of the weather forecast, and it looks like rain is on the forecast again this Saturday. It looks like about an 88% chance of rain. So we'll see how that plays out as well. And so as you can see here, we've got ValueCapper up with the Preakness listed here. Any impressions, any first impressions you guys have had looking at the race?
You can go ahead and take out Muth there, Craig. He's not running.
That was a good catch.
The major scratch.
Sure is. And it does actually make quite a bit of change here.
Yeah. What do you think, Sammy? You want to go first or?
Uh, the race doesn't look too interesting to me. Well, now with the scratches, it's time to rework the race live. 9. We have imagination as our boy with that scratch. I think this opens the race wide open here.
And it did change the pace scenario, I believe, too, right? So one thing that was it was showing before,
You would have to
pressured, highly pressured, and now it's less pressured.
immediately from the value point of view, which I think is always a good idea. You would have to go to the 7 horse, Just Steel, who's the blue VIP for the software, reversing with some goodies.
Yep. And you can see these are my notes here, personal notes here. They were, I was thinking, the Derby lost by 33.5 lengths. I think, ran pretty well to the second call, but after that, he just, kind of gave up. And as you're saying, from a value perspective, you kind of just throw that race out, I think.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Bumped early. Don't know how bad of a bump that actually was, but Just Steel's numbers certainly fit with these. As you check our target with a 165, I like to round up, and certainly Just Steel has been able to run that. Not recently, of course, so we're going to get a nice price. And our other possible, hard to say on price, would be this 3 Catching Freedom. Yeah, I'd probably work a few recreational bets around the 7, and I'd have to check the board on the 3. And I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do with the 8 Tuscan Gold. Maybe a exacta trifecta box or something like that. But the race, hello, Bob.
Can I see my notes, Craig?
Right.
Real quick. I did these a couple of days ago. Yeah, Just Steel, which Sammy mentioned, that second race back was a second to Muth, who would have been the likely morning line favorite, maybe post time favorite. So it was a good race, beat 8 other horses. I'm not really a jockey guy, but the horse has 2 wins. Both of them were with Mr. Rosario on its back, and they're going back to him today. So maybe they just were really unhappy with whatever happened in the Derby, and like, no, we're going to go back with what we know works. So I expect the horse to run well. We'll see what kind of a price we get. Catching Freedom, going to need some help on the pace end, but certainly a live possibility. Tuscan Gold, so lightly raised. I actually I stuck Tuscan Gold with its last race. I don't know if you want to bring up the past performances and show the people what I did. at that 167 and then the 162.8 in its very first start, and had some trouble in that race. I just wanted to see what would happen if I stuck Tuscan Gold with just the last race, and it really doesn't change the line so much, but it changes the VCP. And I'm much more comfortable with if I can get double odds somewhere around 12-1 on Tuscan Gold, I'm perfectly happy. So that's the only change that I really made there. I think it's going to be tough to get prices on those um, three horses, to be honest with you. The VCP is pretty high on them. I have noticed in some of my reading that the 2-horse Uncle Heavy has been getting some noise. The contention line certainly looks better than the morning line, so maybe that horse will draw more money than we expect and push our horses up a little bit. But yeah, this is going to be a shop the board race, as a lot of these classic races are. You just have to see who the public decides to jump on.
Yeah, and my notes on Tuscan Gold, 4th lifetime start. I mean, if any horse can improve and maybe surprise a bit, it's going to be the 8. But then again, he could run up the track. So,
Sure.
So I think I put it 8-1. I thought was fair, given, especially given the stretch of Muth. I think that's reasonable. But like you said, I think chopping the board is going to be the name of the game, which it usually is. And so I guess we'll see.
Yep.
I agree. Based on what we're looking at, I would have to have my main focus, simply because the price would be on Just Steel, because it's true, Catching Freedom, Tuscan Gold, they're going to take money.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Much easier than the Derby, huh?
Yes, it is.
But so
All right. Well, let's look at the undercard, both at Pimlico and elsewhere, and we'll just go in chronological order here. And so I see we've got the Parx 7th race. And so Bob, looks like you've circled this race.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those bread and butter bets for me. Not flashy. Third horse on the morning line. I think there's a reasonable possibility I can get 4-1, which is the lowest I'll ever go on any horse. I think there's a wire to wire possibility, but the horse can run off the pace a little bit. There are some other horses in this race that will go for the lead, but they've been running in races with much slower second calls. Causes Trouble has been running against 45-3, 44 and change. And I think some of the others have been more in the 46 range. So if the 2 doesn't get the lead at the quarter, I think could possibly make a nice move in the second quarter and go on from there. Looks good on top as far as the tag 0 and single pattern and early acupressure. So I will be more than happy to take that horse at 4-1.
Yep, and you can see here he owns both acupressure calls. That's always good.
Kind of rare to see a horse that always pushes and presses for the lead, loves the lead, and then you'll see back in the PPs where it can close like it did on December 1st.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's not a strictly need to lead type. It can press a bit.
And if you go to acupressure, the software obviously saw that race and did not peg it as need to lead. So good call on ValueCapper.
Okay, great.
All right.
So the next race, 10th at Pimlico. I think this is one that I starred. So I'm looking at the 6 here. I think we've got a neutral, highly pressured race here. PPs here. And just a race I thought that, ran a kind of a relaxing last race. It was the first, well, it wasn't really the first time, but it ran 1 mile and 1/8 last race. Ran pretty evenly, I thought. And the 2 horses above it, you've got a horse here, the second choice in the morning line. Didn't run very well, ran in the Wood Memorial. I think this is one of my favorite anti-favorite angles. is or anti-value angles is a horse that ran in a very high class race last out, didn't do anything. And when they drop him the next time, that horse invariably gets bet very heavily. The expectation is, well, they're dropping him. He ran in a very classy race, so obviously he's going to improve, and he might. But I've also seen these horses just overbet way too much. And that's one of the other reasons I just drew my attention to this race. And then you have the 9-5 favorite on top, who, you know, decent enough. But if you look at the odds line, or the ValueCapper odds line, you know, it's not making much of a distinction between these horses. And yet, if you look at the contention line and the morning line, it looks like the public is going to make a distinction. So in my mind, you've got a horse who's pretty competitive. Is competitive on the target as well. Go two back. Yes, that was a sprint, but that's why we will likely get a price here. 12-1 contention line, 8-1 morning line, and is also reversing the Fulcrum, who is going to be probably the third choice in this race. So not any great insight here other than just, hey, it's another race where you've got horses who are going to get bet. I've got a horse who I think is going to be just as competitive, and I'll probably get a price on him. So
Yeah, and that's the name of the game. You know, identifying the horses that you think are going to draw money, and then what other horses can hang with this horse and likely be overlooked a little bit. And yeah, I think the 6. What were you going to take on him, Craig?
I believe I put 8-1. Let's see all my notes. Yeah,
Yeah, you could very well get that. It was a fourth choice on the morning line. Sure. Yeah, I can see that horse winning or running well. We obviously don't know what it's going to do, but there's not much to beat there.
right.
I also like this selection, simply because he's lightly raced, only 4 starts, and even though that last race was a low number, he was competitive throughout at a much higher level. So I agree.
Okay.
And traveling down the arc, like on the Fulcrum, would have to pick up his numbers quite a bit in order to be competitive. Same for the 7. So I'd like to see when other horses in the arc are kind of lower than, would have to improve 3-4 lengths in order to make target. And that's what we have here with the horses below the 6.
Okay, great.
All right.
So next, we'll go 11. And Sammy, looks like you started this race.
Yeah, this race I opened up on the fly and spotted the 2 across the top as our tag. Is the target. Some early speed, turf sprint. If you both call and acupressure, so I would peg this as a wire threat. I would need this horse to break and say I'm trying to put the field away. So we're trying to wire the field here. There's a little bit of a high number here, 174 from Colonial. Craig, if you would, for me, exclude that 174. And the horse, we lose him as a tag, but he stays right on top. So one of my favorite things to do that Michael taught me many, many moons ago. Then I quickly reset the race. So pretty clear cut here. As a target horse, I don't have much work to do. Get the bet down, make sure I have my price, and break well.
So are you
I
looking
like the. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
I was gonna say, are you looking at the VCP odds, or are you looking maybe, will you take a little bit less than 11-1?
I would. I 8, 9.
Okay.
I like the fact that the horses, you know, you're getting comfortable numbers because you're not seeing this, you know, 5 furlongs on the turf and then 6.5 on the dirt, and ValueCapper is just all over the place with what it has to work with. These are nice solid running lines on today's surface, tracks that we're comfortable with. You know, the Colonial line Sometimes they look a little crazy, but they run. I don't know why. We've discussed this in the past. I think Canterbury's another one where we're not sure how they're timing him, but yeah, this looks, when you look at the past performances, this looks like a nice solid screen to bet off of as far as these turf sprints. I kind of stay away from turf sprints. I'm just not very good at them, but this would be one I would definitely keep in mind as the days going along.
Okay. All right, moving along. We've already looked at the Preakness. The 5th at Churchill. I believe this was me. Yeah, Shuffle Dance, number 8. So one thing, this is another horse that his last race was at the 62,500 level. Non-winners of 3 lifetime, but if you look at every horse in this race, they're all non-winners of 3. So I don't really think that's a major issue. Another thing I noticed was that last race wasn't that great. It was on the mud. The other race that wasn't that great, going 4 back, was also on the mud. Maybe he doesn't like the mud. I don't know. Now, Churchill, the forecast, I think, is for rain on Saturday, so I will keep an eye on that. If the track comes up muddy, I'm probably a pass. But other than that, I think the horse is competitive on numbers. It's you got a layoff, you got some anti-value at the top here. And these are not exactly world beaters in this field. I think I even wrote that in my notes. These are a bunch of horses. None of them have won more than 2 races lifetime. So I won't not be too enamored or too scared of any horse who's going up at big odds in a race like this. So you've got him, you've got, the other horse above him is 2 for 25. I've got a horse that's competitive. I got an excuse. I think an excuse last race, and that this horse will come back to a good effort this time and is competitive. And I believe I put 8 to 1. A little bit lower than the VCP, but I'm comfortable taking 8 to 1 on this horse.
Can I see acupressure on that
Sure thing.
race? Okay. The only thing that I did notice about the horse was that its 2 victories were wire to wire. I would be concerned if I saw another horse in that need to lead box, but it doesn't look like anybody is going to necessarily press this horse for the lead. So I feel much better after seeing that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, he does seem to get comfortable once he gets his head out in front, and his final fractions going wire to wire are pretty decent in this field. So once he gets out there, he just gets comfortable and keeps motoring. And do you have easy access to speed points, Craig, or not really on that screen?
Get it.
Yeah.
You can't see it. I probably have these.
8 and the 6 both have a 5. The 8 and the 6 have a 5, and then the third horse would be a 3 rating.
Yeah.
8,
Okay.
6,
So
3.
there's really on paper nobody keeping this 8 horse from getting the lead if it breaks well. So yeah, I like that. That's a good race to keep your eye on and see how the money comes in.
Right. And like I said, I'll keep an eye on the weather. I may be overstating the importance of the surface or the track condition, but as always, odds will dictate what I do.
Right.
There you go.
Okay, moving on. Prairie Meadows 4th. Bob, looks like you circled this
All
one.
right. Yeah, I don't normally play a lot of Prairie Meadows, and I was a little limited when I was looking at races yesterday. Not all the tracks had their final files in, but Prairie Meadows did, and I looked at this race. A lot of anti-value. Everybody's coming off a layoff, but I do like horses with back numbers. Horse put up a 162.7 as a 3-year-old. Runs well off of the layoff. You can see its very first start, it lost by a neck. Next time it was on a layoff, it won easily. So I don't think the horse necessarily has to race into condition. Connections are good. will I get 8-1? What I don't really look at the morning line number so much, but more at its position on the morning line. It is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the morning line. So 8-1's a possibility. We'll see. Does seem to have good connections for Prairie Meadows, so that may draw some money. But if the horse is up there around 8-1, I'll take a swing. It looks as solid as anybody else in this field.
I don't have much to add. I like the fact that the horse has the first call. I think it's gonna be helpful. Bob, what kind of price would you want here?
I forget what my notes said. I think I was probably happy with VCP, but
8-1?
yeah, 8-1. If I have a concern, the race is pressured, highly pressured, and it's kind of a forward running horse. Can I see acupressure on this, Craig? So, it's not going to necessarily have a big battle for the lead. So I don't know how much pressure there actually is going to be. Sam and I talk about this a lot. We kind of like to see 3 or more need to lead horses before we're going to get comfortable with a highly pressured designation. One need to lead horse. Yeah, I understand that there's going to be a lot of horses kind of in that first grouping, the first half of the field there. They aren't necessarily going to push fast fractions if there's not multiple need to leads. So even though Talent's Time is a little bit of a forward running horse, I'm expecting more of a presser type to win this race than a deep closer. So we'll see how that develops.
Okay. And finally, we've got Churchill 11. So it looks like Sammy, you took in.
Okay, Churchill 11. I like races, clear, simple, and obvious, Michael would call them. You open a race, one horse just kind of lifts itself off the screen. That'd be the 4 here, Baby Avery. Blue VIP is another horse that is the target. It's nice when your bet is the target horse because it really takes half the work out of the equation. Lightly Race is only its 3rd career start in this maiden event. Likes to be forwardly placed, improved like the mile.
I see it owns both acupressure calls.
When I click on the it does the one horse certainly has strong numbers in the field. However, the one is just because the horse has strong numbers, he has to prove it. Well, let's be a girl in this case. I like the horse that I'm running against to prove it. This horse has never been at the distance, so until I see that she can successfully go long, I'll take a shot against a horse like this.
Since it's red unpressured, can we see what it looks like in the neutral sort, Craig? Okay. So the 4's still in the arc. Doesn't change really anything. It just shuffles some horses around. So
Exactly.
yeah, why not?
I would, as far as price here, I would want certainly more than the VCP in this case. 8-1, 9-1. I probably wouldn't want to go less than that. Maybe I'd push it to 7, down to 7, but certainly I'm not going to take 9-2, 5-1, 6-1 on this animal.
No, that's a good call. Anytime you're doing projection, which is what you're doing in this race, you're projecting, quite a bit of improvement. and that certainly is possible with a lightly raced 3-year-old. You do need to get a little bit more of a price. So I think, yeah, 8, 9 to 1 would be where I would be at this with this horse.
Right.
And you might get it.
Good.
You're looking at about the 6th choice, 7th choice on the line.
Yeah,
So you may very well
yeah.
get it. So,
Yeah. Good possibility.
all
All
right.
right. Well, that gives me some races to look at tomorrow. I normally do things on the fly, but at least I'll mark those races and definitely make sure I don't miss them. I think there's like 19 tracks or something like that that I can play in Nevada tomorrow, so it gets a little hectic, but try not to miss these races for sure.
Yep. Yeah, it should be a busy Saturday. So, any other closing thoughts from you guys?
Nothing earth shattering here. Just when you're playing these big races, try not to put a lot of investment into the big race simply because it's the big race. And you know, a maiden claiming at Prairie Meadows for 5,000 might possibly make your day versus going all in on the Preakness or Derby and kind of forcing marginal plays.
Yep. I couldn't say it any better than that. I know people when I tell them, I bet on the horses and it's this time of year, their natural instinct is say, well, who do you like? Who you liking the Derby? Who you liking the Preakness? And it's like, well, it's not that easy. I mean, some of these other races are much better bets, and you have to explain to them that the concept of value, and sometimes their eyes will glaze over. But I think a lot of people do get it, and they understand that okay, this isn't just about picking a winner; it's about finding a good bet. And so that's why we're here, and that's what the purpose of these videos is to hopefully uncover good value bets. And with that, I will wish you all good luck this weekend, and we will see you again in a few weeks. Take care.
Take care, fellas.
Bye, everybody.